Pregame.com.
Welcome in to Pregame.com. I'm Pauly Howard. That's Teddy Covers. Today, how much is home field advantage really worth? You know about Seattle. You know about New Orleans. Arrowhead and Kansas City, a tough place to play. And for the last year and a half, you can say Cincinnati. What do you think, Teddy? What's home field advantage really worth?
I can't say Cincinnati. Cincinnati had one good year where they covered a bunch of spreads. They're not covering numbers at home this year. New Orleans had this great run where they covered a bunch of numbers. This year, not as much. The strong home fields, they come and they go. Seahawks have covered some. They haven't covered as many. They're not as hot. What is a home field advantage worth? Was the question you asked me. And if you do the math, on average, looking at a 30-year sample size, an NFL home field is worth about 2.75 points, 2.75 points. Most of the time, when you abbreviate and adjust and do it quickly, you say a home field is worth 3 points. And that same 3 points goes for the NFL, college football, NBA, college hoops, even the equivalent of it in baseball. That's the simple, easy way for the markets to react to what a home field is.
You're telling me, and throw out this year, but the last 2 years, Seattle was a machine at home killing people? Vegas wouldn't say 5, 6 points?
Absolutely not even close. And what you find in the NFL is that there's going, the markets are going to give every team 3 points, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. It doesn't matter if that team is Jacksonville or Seattle. Now, when you start to see teams build strong home records against the spread, you start to see that ratchet up a little bit. At this stage, the New Orleans, the Seattle, they're being priced more like a 4-point home field as opposed to a 3-point home field. But the thing that amazes me to this day, Paul, they give the Oakland Raiders 3 points for home field. You know the last time Oakland had a winning spread record at home? Like a decade ago, literally.
Yeah.
So they say, oh, well, it's just, and I had arguments with other professional bettors about this. They go, well, it's a disadvantage for the road team anyway, even though the crowd support isn't there and the team doesn't play well in that venue. No. Bad teams don't have as strong of a home field edge as good teams do, and it's just that simple. The crowd's not as rowdy. The team's not as confident playing on that field. Some teams, they're at home, they expect them to win. The Broncos are at home, they expect to win. Oakland's at home, they expect to lose. Jacksonville's at home, they expect to lose. Tampa Bay's at home, they expect to lose. So you have these home fields in the NFL that are really worth very little. And the road team's the squad that's going to come in with the confidence. And the road team is going to have fans in the stadium every bit as much as the home team does. And the road team's the better football team. So these blanket, every team gets a 3, you can get in trouble doing that. And the markets like to take shortcuts. They like aggregate averages and long-term sample sizes. I do my home fields team by team, year by year. So I'm always adjusting those numbers. I'm adjusting them every week.
Even the same in basketball. Tough Cameron, Utah State, NBA, Denver, Utah. You're talking about altitude, still the same.
Absolutely. And in the NBA, again, you see the markets routinely give the Philadelphia 76ers a 3-point home court edge.
That's laughable.
And if you want to bet Philly, you're betting them on the road because they're catching 12 instead of at home where they're catching 6. Or Orlando gets a home field. And Orlando at least has played a little bit better at home than they have on the road in general. But so many of these very bad basketball teams, these tanking teams, are getting credit for a home court edge that doesn't exist. And I love laying points with some of these road favorites against them. When we look at Denver and Utah, great example. When Utah was good, their home court advantage was enormous. Last year, the Jazz stunk. You know what their home court was worth? Not even 3 points.
Shouldn't be.
They're being priced still 3.5. Denver stunk last year. You know what their home field was worth? Their home court was worth? It was worth, if you average it out, about at 1.8 last year. It wasn't even worth 2 points a season ago. So when they're good, when these teams are competitive in the altitude, it matters. It matters a little bit. When they're not competitive, those home fields really aren't worth, their home courts aren't worth nearly as much. But I'm going to talk about college, but come back.
I was going to say, how about does Vegas and odds makers recognize a home field disadvantage? Team, big expectations, huge payroll, whatever sport. They come out, the boo birds 5 minutes in, they can't stand it, booing the team off the field. And the team maybe strong on the road, they can't handle it at home. Terrible record.
In the pro ranks, when we talk about the professional teams, the NFL and the NBA, there really isn't a lot of variance in terms of how much home field the Vegas markets and the Vegas sports books, how much of a home field edge, how much they adjust for it. It really is close to 3 points. They might adjust a half point here or a hook down there, but they're not adjusting significantly for home court edges the way they do in college. And in college, you see enormous home field sometimes worth 6, 7 points even in the betting markets.
Now college. Utah State always when they were, in the last few years, shaky. Tough Utah State, Cameron, tough place to play. They always talk about tough environments, great home court. What do you think of college?
Well, in college there's a difference in terms of how much a really strong home court can be worth, both because, the Cameron crazies are crazy, They're crazy up in Logan, Utah State,
yeah.
I mean, these are courts where legitimately crowd noise can make a difference. But there's another factor to be considered here. At a professional level, it doesn't matter if you're on the worst team or the best. You've been on the road dozens of times. You've been in hostile environments. There's at least a thought process that you're not going to come unglued. In college, when you talk about 18 and 19-year-old kids and their first time away from home and their first time playing in front of some, particularly raucous crowds, it gives them an excuse. These kids say, oh, well, I would have played good, but it literally gives the coach an excuse to lose. It gives the players an excuse not to play well. And everybody's looking for excuses. So a lot of times in college, you see these crazy home road dichotomies. Teams that, they're dominant at home and can't win a road game. Or they're dominant on the road, particularly college basketball.
Oh, remember the Fresno State team with Tark? They might have been shaving points, but it was crazy at home, and they couldn't beat anybody on the road.
Yeah, and this happens all the time in college basketball. That's why I like to use another column. We talk about home field advantage. I also have a column on my little spreadsheet. I call it Road Adjust.
Okay.
Veteran teams, mature teams, savvy teams. They go on the road, they keep their head, they win games. I essentially bump up their power rating by a point, even 2 sometimes, to mitigate their opponent's home court edge. On the other hand, you have teams that go on the road and they just get obliterated, and there's no confidence, and they now have an excuse to lose, and the poise isn't there, the point guard play isn't there, whatever you want to call it. Again, on my little Road Adjust column, I'll subtract a point or 2 from those teams' power rating based on their inability to get the job done in hostile environments.
Nice work. That was a fun discussion. Thanks for watching on pregame.com.